Our first step is to get the dog to identify that it can find the ball on its own that comes out of the ball dropper. In the very beginning, you have a pistol directly underneath the ball dropper. The dog knows that a ball is coming from the ball dropper. Is not yet associated that the gun is related to the ball coming. So we have 10 machines, all evenly spaced at the nose level or the sit position of the dog, and only one of the machines has a weapon directly underneath it. The gun is related to the ball coming until you add more machines. When you add more machines, they also have balls in them, but they don't have a weapon directly underneath them. That will confuse a dog, so the moment that he goes to the machine without the weapon, nothing's going to happen. He will go to the next machine, that weapon is there, you immediately reward the dog the moment he hits the weapon. And that's the advantage of a remote control machine, is that you can reward the dog instantly at the source. Once we're sure that the dog has associated the weapon with the ball, we want to extend the length of indication to where the dog will hold that intensity and that drive quality, push into the weapon, expecting to get the ball from the weapon. But we want very strong indications that it's impossible to take the dog away from the source. The dog believes so strongly that the weapon brings him the ball that nothing will distract him from it.
Good.
Now we want to change the dog's direction of searching, high and low. Anything below the waist level would be indicated by down position. Anything above the waist level is indicated by a sit position.
When the gun is fired, all the gases and the powder of the bullets actually come out the front of the weapon, and most of the area of scent is on the barrel where the actual cartridge expends, but there's also quite a bit of powder in the magazine area, which is also where the bullets are. You can see that the magazine well and area is in an upward motion. What we want to do is we want to teach the dog to actually search in a pattern, to start from the bottom and come up.
The common way, or the way that's used now to train detection dogs, is the handler rewards the dog. So the dog has an association of the weapon and then getting the ball from the handler. So the dog has a real strong association with the weapon and the reward coming from the handler. Our method is designed to reward the dog at the source, not the handler. Once that's been established, we need to disassociate the ball completely away from the weapon or the target, and we do that by extending the tubes. One will be at ankle length, so that gives you 7 feet where the ball is away from the target, and at waist length you're about 4 feet away. So this makes the weapon the primary target for the dog to find. Our goal is to have the dog convinced that the weapon is the primary target, that primary target is what satisfies the drive of the dog. Here we want to make sure that there's no residue left, because the dog will go and actually indicate on the scent where the gun was. So we're here in the machine, and it's all of a sudden propelling out. It looks like it's being shot out, and that's why.
We're using gravity instead of powder. And so we're getting pressure buildup as it comes through the pipe. It's actually coming out a whole lot faster than it would be coming through out of the machine.
Let's go ahead and set it up on the high one. It becomes easy for a dog to work in one line, up and down. It's more difficult for that line, or that track, or that search pattern to end and a new one to begin. Crossing over is difficult, but necessary. That the dog knows there's nothing on this side, but there is something somewhere. At this point, the dog will use its nose to its full capacity. Dogs are capable of finding something from a long ways away. If you ever watch a dog, even in the natural environment, how the nose is lifted up, the head is lifted up, it's actually scenting something from a long distance. The problem with dog training is that they go in short lines, and then the scent line changes, and the dog needs to be able to change with the scent line. Even if the wind comes up, that will affect how the dog does a search. So we want the dog to continue to search even when it appears that the first track has disappeared. Basically cross over, pick up the scent, and go again. Strong, compelling wind pushing this way. So the dog searched the other side, but didn't actually go to each tube on this side because the wind was strong enough to make the dog turn around, use its nose, and go directly to this weapon. She ignored all the other posts because the wind was strong. After the dog has convinced us that it's sure the weapon brings the reward no matter what, then we want to take away the weapon itself and replace it with spent casings and gunpowder. Okay, we've separated the boxes. There's 3 boxes that have nothing in them and 1 box that does have empty bullet casings in it. Once we're convinced that the dog is indicating the black powder and the casings, we want to add visual distractions, so we add more boxes for the dog to smell and then indicate the substance. Smokeless powder loaded, so this one will stay that way. You've got leather. You've got leather.
The pieces.
Okay, so that's got a lot of smell to it.
Oh yeah.
That'll be one distraction.
Ball that I cut up.
Okay, so she's gonna smell that ball. It's a really well used ball in that box. And then the other one is actually going to have the food in it.
Good food distraction.
Cut up pieces of hot dog. That should be plenty to get her interest on.
Oh yeah.
To be double sure that the dog is desiring only the weapon or the scent of the weapon, we add the distractions of food and even a ball within the container. Both of those substances are something the dog would naturally really desire. But the dog has to learn that does not get the reward for the dog. Only the scent of the weapon is where the reward comes from. all the way back down to the last one. Up to the next one. To the next one. Oh, she sure. At each challenge level, we want to also go back one level. If we change containers, then we want to have a freshly fired weapon in the container to make up for that adjustment and just to help the dog know that that will also get the reward. Yeah, good girl. Good girl. Here. Here. Sit. Breaking down the gun into different parts is essential to absolute conclusion that that dog will indicate even the smallest part of a gun. We can use any kind of substance. The dogs are capable of finding up to 5,000 different scents. We're just choosing now to use the scent of a weapon, whether it's just a spring or a clip, a barrel. But in reality, that could be anything that we want the dog to find. And we can even have that dog trained to find more than one odor as well. If our goal is to find bombs, bombs are made up of more than just black powder. So we would have the dog trained to indicate more than just black powder, but all the other ingredients that go along with building a bomb as well. In many countries, it's illegal to possess firearms. This system is designed to locate persons that are in the possession of a firearm or even had possession of a firearm. Dogs get accustomed to the odor being in one place. So after 3 times of dropping the ball, it's no longer useful. It has to be moved. It's important to have common items that are in people's pockets in the containers as well, so the dog knows the difference between the weapon or the scent of a weapon versus the scent of a cell phone or set of keys, whatever it might be. They all do have human scent. There is something in the pocket. We don't want the dog indicating on somebody just because they have something in their pocket. We want them to indicate there is a firearm there. It's okay for the dog to smell at the pocket, identify that there's a cell phone briefly, but only briefly. Same with keys. The dog would take a scent of a pocket, know that there's something in there, like a set of keys, and continue to move on. Then there's a wallet. That's not a weapon. Continue to move on, but at the scent of a weapon, the dog should no longer move on, show a complete, distinct stop. That's going to assure you that there is a weapon or there was a weapon on that person. It's actually more difficult to find a weapon on persons than it is to find bombs, because there's so many different scents on a person and so many different ones to be computed, filed away within the dog's brain, and then go on to the next person who has a whole lot of different smells again, where if you are just doing detection work, say in suitcases, it's much more simple because there's no people involved. Okay, go ahead and put your arms down to your sides. Let me see the balls. Okay, so what I'm going to do is ask you to cross your arms and put the ball where you think the pistol would be, and not like... When I'm using the machines to reward the dog for finding the weapon, I use a remote control. When I substitute the ball machines and use live people, I use a clicker that makes the same sound, which at that point tells that person to reward the dog with the ball. So I'm still in complete control of when the dog is rewarded. Really everyone has a cell phone in their front pocket. It's also a place where they would have a weapon is in the front of their body. So it's important that the dog realizes that cell phones don't help with getting the reward. All dogs want to be self-satisfied. So if they even thought for a minute that a cell phone would get them satisfaction, they would stop there. So it's important that the dog is proofed against everything that could be in a pocket. Ignore everything that's in a pocket except for something that smells like a weapon. The only difference is now that we have a person there that has its own scent, but the dog has to be totally convinced that it's looking only for one particular scent at this time. That's the scent of a weapon. All the other scents that the people come with are not important. They actually even have balls on their body. That's not important. What is important is the weapon is on that person.